Comedy and mental health. In the wake of the death of Robin Williams, we speak to one man who is working to change the stigma around depression by using humor. Also, Robin Williams' legacy. Our film critic Liam Lacey is here to discuss. I'm Affan Chowdhry. Welcome to Globe Now. Hollywood and fans worldwide are mourning the loss of Robin Williams. The actor was found dead in his California home on Monday of an apparent suicide. Williams was a stand-up comedian, and he played many beloved comedic roles in movies and television shows, such as Good Morning Vietnam, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Mork and Mindy. Behind the scenes, Williams dealt with drug and alcohol abuse and severe depression. David Granirer is the founder of Stand Up for Mental Health, a program that teaches stand-up comedy to people with mental health issues. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
I wanted to ask you, why do you think there is a stigma around comedians talking about mental health issues?
Well, I think there's a stigma around anyone talking about mental health issues. And I think that since comedians are such public figures, and also we're supposed to be happy, we're supposed to be making people laugh, and it's just not cool to admit you have depression.
I mean, I've seen interviews with Robin Williams where he's talking about his addiction when it comes to cocaine and alcohol, but not a lot, when it comes to mental health. I mean, what did you feel that as well?
Well, I don't know. Obviously, I've never met Robin Williams. I don't know Robin Williams, but I can say that it's way cooler, and people are way more likely to say I was an alcoholic, or I used to do tons of coke, and whoa, that was great. They're more likely to say that, way more likely to say that than they are to say, I have depression, I see a psychiatrist, I'm on antidepressants, I go to therapy, there are days that I don't want to get out of bed. We just don't want to admit that, so it stays stigmatized and in the closet.
I mean, how are you trying to change the stigma around mental health?
Well, in Stand Up for Mental Health, I teach folks with mental health issues, all sorts, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, the whole gamut, how to do stand-up comedy, all about their mental health journeys. And then we go out and perform shows. I've taught groups in Canada, the US, and Australia, and I think that we changed the public perception. I hear people come to our shows and they'll say stuff like, I saw that guy on he has schizophrenia and he was on stage and he was hilarious. And how often do you hear schizophrenia and hilarious in the same sentence?
I mean, you've also struggled, with depression. What have been your ways of coping?
Well, my ways of coping, first of all, my depression began when I was about 17. It was undiagnosed for almost 20 years. So during that period, my method of coping was a lot of using of drugs. And in fact, 60 to 70% of substance abuse has an underlying mental health issue because we self-medicate because it makes us feel good. Then I've had tons of therapy. I'm on medication. I make sure to eat right, exercise, all those kinds of things, try and keep my life in balance.
I mean, I wanted to ask you about your message to people who are working through mental health issues. What is your message to them?
Well, my message to them is that you may be in a horrible place right now, but recovery is possible. And our comics are proof of that. Because if you watch our comics, these people, they've been in the exact same position as you. They've been hospitalized, they've hallucinated, they've been suicidally depressed, they've attempted suicide, I've attempted suicide, and here they are up on stage, they're doing stand-up comedy, and if they can do something like that, you can too.
And I mean, what was your reaction to hearing the news yesterday?
My reaction was it just confirms that mental illness, mental health issues, whatever you want to call them, are universal. They strike everyone, no matter who you are, how rich you are, how famous you are, how talented you are. That's no defense, unfortunately. And I really hope that something good comes of Robin's death, in the sense of more people stepping out of the closet and talking about their issues. The other reaction I had too is that, and I'm also remembering from my from my suicide attempt, how badly you're hurting emotionally to want to take your own life, and how just intolerable it seems to go on for even another step. And that underneath that often is not the desire to end your life, but just the desire to make the pain go away. And unfortunately, at the time, the only way you can think of to make the pain go away is to take your own life.
David, thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Well, we want to hear from you. What do you think are the best ways to deal with depression? Do you think there should be more of an open discussion about the disease? Tweet us at Globe Now. Even though Robin Williams is dead, he will remain with us in the many films and television shows he leaves behind. And our film critic, Liam Lacey, joins us now to talk about the actor's comedic legacy. Welcome, Liam.
Thank you.
What do you think is the role that defined Robin Williams?
For me, it's probably Good Morning Vietnam, which he played a DJ during the Vietnam War. It captures the quality of his stand-up, where he is going at a mile a minute. He was still fairly young and at that very rapid free association style. And it's sort of the heart of that film, is a kind of irreverence about, countercultural irreverence around the war in Vietnam. And just catches him on full flight. It's similarly, at the same time, there's the HBO specials that show his stand-up. And I like going back and seeing some Mork and Mindy, just to see what he was doing in a very confined sitcom thing, where in fact he was still allowed to improvise. They shaped the show to give him spots where he could verbally and physically improvise.
I mean, here's someone who made people laugh really hard, but who had his struggles, suffered. And I'm wondering how much of that showed up in some of his movie roles.
Well, I think he chose a lot of roles, perhaps too many, but there was definitely a streak of dealing with characters who were traumatized, who had suffered some great loss that he was obviously attracted to, probably most prominently in Good Will Hunting, the one for which he won the Oscar as a kind of damaged psychiatrist, but also The Fisher King as a homeless man. And I think in some of the darker roles, like 1 Hour Photo later in his life, it was a repeated theme in his work that he was attracted to characters who had suffered, who were traumatized.
Were there kind of other smaller films that perhaps didn't get as much attention? Because people are going to be wanting to revisit some Robin Williams films. What would you recommend?
Well, it's a strong cup of brew, but I like a film called World's Greatest Dad, directed by his friend Bobcat Goldthwait. It's about a father who's a writer who benefits from the death of his son, which people believe is a suicide. In fact, it's erotic auto-asphyxiation. But he capitalizes on this and becomes a very successful writer because of the sympathy that happens to him.
Right.
It's a very dark film. I also think his two sort of criminal roles, Insomnia with Al Pacino as a cop, where he plays a serial killer, and 1 Hour Photo, where he plays a creepy guy working in a photo shop who is up to no good.
Interesting. And you know, were there any films that he had already made that we can expect might be released, you know, in the next 12 months or so?
There are, and they have an oddly macabre tone, both of them. One is Angriest Man in Brooklyn, in which he plays a man who is mistakenly told he has 90 minutes to live and runs about trying to reconcile with his ex-wife and family and people that he's hurt. The other is Night at the Museum, Secrets of the Tomb, as it's entitled, which is the third in that sequence. I can only imagine the kind of riffing that Robin Williams would do about those two titles and subjects.
Yeah, well, we'll look forward to those. Thank you so much, Liam.
Yep.
Well, we want to hear from you. Share your favorite memory of Robin Williams with us on Twitter. We're at Globe Now. I'm Affan Chowdhry. Thanks for watching.